What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Bud Evans. How you doing today, Bud?
Doing great, Dan. Pleasure
Awesome.
to be here.
Awesome. And I'm really happy today too because I've got my very favorite audience member watching today. And why is my favorite audience member watching today? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. Now, why do I do that? Well, part of it is because it's the law. We have a bunch of these private deals going on off market and whatnot. And the only way that you're allowed to share them if they're 506B is if you have a prior substantive relationship that's documented. So we got to find out, it's like, where's the overlap? Is there an opportunity for us to collab or what? But before we get too excited on that, Bud, do you want to give a little quick introduction before we get started?
Yeah, sure thing. So my name is Bud Evans. I am a retired police officer of 13 years, and I served in the Air Force for 34 years. I'm the former mayor of Cinnaminson. I'm a real estate investor and licensed agent. I operate primarily in South New Jersey and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a real estate investment coach for Tariq Al Musa, and I teach the Burr Method, commercial multifamily analysis, property management, and velocity and infinite banking. I've underwritten about $100 million worth of deals, and I have a real estate portfolio personally of over 10 million. I'm the president of Aim High Properties, which operates 8 subordinate companies, ranging from property management to, no kidding, a hair salon.
Well, hey, if it pencils out, right? But I'm not sure if you want to get a huge empire of hair salons and whatnot. But well, I guess we'll find out through the distinct motivations piece here. But before we get too excited with that, but wait, check your eight, and I don't mean like behind you, sort of eight. I mean like on your screen. I don't know if you can see through the camera and into the audience's device to see if they have the red ugly subscribe button or if they have the beautiful gray one, but it's very okay. That's just a joke. All right, let's go ahead and do the 5 distinct motivations. This is what I find really separates commercial investors in general. The first reason why some people are making their next acquisition is because they're preserving their purchasing power. That means they've already got a portfolio, and the proceeds from owning that portfolio is how they make ends meet. But if inflation rears its ugly head, or if there's an asset crash, it might be a really good idea to make another acquisition. So that's what a lot of people are up to. That's not really where I'm at yet. My big one is because I got a background in tech. Specifically, I've owned a CRM company since 2011, and I've been helping out real estate investors, syndicators, sponsors, all that kind of stuff since then, since about 2014. But the problem with making a high salary or high wages is that you're paying more in tax than anybody else. So it hit me. It's like, well, how can I pivot where I'm getting rewarded with deployed capital rather than in cash, because that way I'm paying for the government the entire time. So that's what I'm up to. But a lot of people, they are attracted to commercial real estate because they want to take that's easy for me to say. They want to take control of their schedule. That might mean that they're trying to fast track their retirement. Maybe it just means that sooner than later they want to work fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month or something like that. But that's not everybody. Some people are going to be hustling into their 90s. Like my next group, they are so ambitious. They want to buy their entire hometown. They're after that generational wealth. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And so these guys are fantastic partners to have as well. And the last group, though, they're also going to be hustling into their 90s, but their motivation is because they've picked a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment or animals. Who knows what it is? But they realize that you have to have some substantial financial backing if you're going to make a really big impact. So of those 5 different motivations, Bud, what combination of those would you say describes you best?
Yeah, so I'm already retired. So I kind of jumped ahead, and I no longer trade my time for money. So that really resonates with me, specifically because we did it through real estate.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, and then as far as your next acquisitions, like is it more of like a generational thing, or just really just preservation of person purchasing power?
Yeah, Dan, a great conversation I had on the Aim High podcast the other day with a guy named JP Kilduff, and he had just recently come back from Congo, and he had this eye-opening experience where legacy is not tomorrow, legacy is your name today. So I kind of took that to heart because I didn't have any of my family working with me, so I brought my son in a few weeks ago, and now he's running project management for me.
Mhm.
So it's that's been a great experience. Getting to that help people who need it. Another thing that I do is I teach for Tarek Al Musa. If he's an HGTV guy, it's primarily there's a little bit of there's a lot of single family flipping in that, but at the same time, I teach the Burr method in the commercial multifamily property. So kind of go in that direction with it.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. So my next question has to do with tolerance for risk. And the reason why I put it in here is because I interview a lot of newbies as well. And I need to make sure that people aren't just coming into this going like, well, I hear there's a lot of money in it. It's like, well, there's a lot more to it than just like, oh, okay, I'm here, give me a bunch of money. So risk is the big part I like to emphasize. And this, sometimes I get some tongue-in-cheek answers on this one, but there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. Can you please fill that in? It can be real estate, it can be non-real estate, anything that you feel
Sure.
too risky.
Single family homes.
And specifically, it's lack of scalability or
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I started. So I have experience with it. One bad property manager or one bad contractor can break you,
mhm.
especially when you're first starting out and you have one property and you have 100% vacancy. You're not earning any money and you're actually losing money every month because you still have to pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, single family homes are definitely a lot more risky because you're spreading that risk over multi units
Mhm.
with a multifamily property.
Beautiful. I love that answer. And so, the other motivation that I have for this show is I want to make sure that you can effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. And in order to do that, I got to make sure that you understand how to express how a deal works, the people who are involved. And the nice thing is that because I do that, you also get to learn where my guest fits into those deals. And to do that, I use the Dan Does Deals commercial competency cube with the 6 different major roles. I go through all 6 of them in every single episode of chance encounters. And the reason I do that is to make sure that this is all super clear and you can express yourself. And if you want your own copy of this die, you can print it out. It's at dandoesdeals.com. I don't even ask for your email address, which is a really, really bad idea from a marketing perspective. You should always get some sort of contact information in return for your freebies. But again, I want you to print this out. I want you to talk to your friends about it. I want you to talk to your family about it so that you guys understand how these deals work. But let's go through these real quick. First one I want to talk about is the repositioner. A repositioner looks at a bunch of different properties because they're an acquisitions person and they do a bunch of paperwork. What are they doing with the paperwork? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They underwrite the deal. That means they do the arithmetic, they do the math. They find out, first of all, is this broker or seller even telling the truth about how much this property is making? And then after they figure that part out, the repositioning side of this person's role is to find some upside. What can they change in the property or how it's run to find more profitability? And the first place they can look is going to financiers and getting more favorable lending because that's baked in upside right there. But if that's not available, the first more obvious spot that they're going to look is the operations team. They're going to stop those Benjamins from going down the toilet. But of course, there's more to operations than unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and collecting rent and all that kind of stuff. For example, there's a marketing piece, which is one of my fortes, and that makes sure that the vacancy rate stays low. And then there are other things like automating, which CRMs are great for in those different processes. But because commercial real estate is so competitive, looking purely at operations is often not enough. So the repositioner will get a contractor team in to make the units nicer so that the new tenants will be happy to pay more in rent than the previous one. So you get your upside. But getting contractors into a building and fixing things up, it's a very expensive habit. And there are lots of ways to go wrong. So the repositioner, especially if they're like me, I don't know if you know this about me, I'm from the internet, but that means that I need a local. You need somebody nearby who can be there in an hour or two, because that's not going to be me. I'd still be stuck at an airport in an hour or two. So the team is definitely going to need those boots on the ground. But when you've got that team and then the repositioner has the deal in hand, turns around to the financier and says, hey, I want to pick up this property, this complex is worth tens of millions of dollars. Do you happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend me, financier? Well, the financier is going to have one question on their mind that I haven't answered yet, which is, who's your sponsor KP? What that's all about, I'm assuming, like if you have a bunch of friends and you pile together to take over this property, one of the problems you're going to run into is you're not eligible for the commercial loan unless you've got somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. So if you want to buy it outright without a loan, then that's one thing. But even if you're Elon Musk, you need somebody in the fold who owns a similar asset. On top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity, and then you also need a balance sheet among the owners of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Bud, as far as your core competencies, I think you're getting you're in the sponsor KP side as well, but there's some repositioner acquisitions, and of course, everybody has some investor relations, financier roles. But how do you describe your contributions to your next deals?
Mostly, I'm a capital raiser. I'm the guy who talks to the financier and gets them involved, or private money or limited partners, depending on the size of the deal. I'm a little selfish though, Dan. I generally target 20 units and below,
Mm-hmm,
so that I can at the back end of this, when I finance everyone out, I can keep those. So I'm a little bit of a smaller potato, as
mm-hmm,
they say.
mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I love it. So then you've already got into the next question, then, which is the buy box. And when commercial investors and syndicators are talking about an ideal property, they're really talking about three main things. First one's geography. So where are they located? Which states? Which counties? Possibly even which neighborhood? Okay, it's all going to matter. Second one is the size. Bud just mentioned the size that he's after there, but there you're going to get a different type of group taking over the 20 unit deals from the ones that are like 500 unit portfolios. So that's the second thing, is the size. In other forms of commercial, you might go off a square footage, like if it's industrial or warehousing or something like that, but unit count is multifamily. But the third one, it's called class. And unfortunately, or at least I think it's unfortunate, they use the same word for two different things. The first meaning, it has to do with the condition of the building. So is it old or is it new? Is it beat up or is it, basically up to date and no frills? Or is it, the type where it's really, really lavish with all the luxuries and amenities? That's the first meaning of class. The second meaning of class is also sometimes known as the area. But what that's all about is what's the crime rate like where the property is located? What are the school districts like where the property is located? And both of those meanings of class, they use the same rating system as in grade school. So it's like A plus, A minus, B plus, and so on. So, Bud, just for the VAs that are watching the show, do you want to review your buy box real quick?
Yeah, sure thing. We look for properties that are well, let's start with the area. We're primarily looking in the South Jersey area, Mercer, Burlington, and Camden counties. We restrict that because there are a lot of properties in this area that fit my criteria. And we also look in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, not in Pittsburgh proper, simply because of landlord friendliness.
Mm-hmm.
We look for properties that are under 20 units, primarily mom and pop owned with really sloppy records, because we know that we can turn those properties around, create efficiencies in those properties, and they're most likely undervalued. We're generally looking at somewhere sub $1 million in those areas as well. And with the amount of rehab obviously varies from about 5 to about 200,000.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so the next question then, it has to do with the people who you can disproportionately help. And one of my favorite things about commercial real estate is that because there's so many roles, people are really, really helpful. They're eager to give referrals or build new teams. But even though that's the case, we're all still better suited to help some people more than others. Me, because of my mass marketing CRM background, it's the sponsors and KPs that are usually a good fit for me, just because they've got enough of a foundation for me to make a really, really disproportionate difference. Whereas when you're first getting started, repositioners generally need grunts who can do the 80 to 120 hours a week. So, Bud, as far as, if you have any 506B deals, don't entice any investors. The SEC hates that. But as far as these, like I like to say beginners is another way, if that's who you're looking for. But who are you disproportionately well suited to help, Bud?
Right now, we are in the I'd have to say the that financier range.
Hmm.
we're well, there's a myriad because specifically I'm small, and we do buy smaller properties. We've just bought 25 units this year,
Hmm.
three different buildings. And in that sense, I do underwriting for the smaller deals, not for the larger deals. There's way too much involved in that. And that's when I have to reach out and get people. But generally in that financier and probably some of the underwriting as well.
Beautiful. And then, as far as ways to reach out, I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn because I got the distinctive last name. This
Yep.
QR code, if you scan it with your phone, that'll bring you to the FAQs page of 506 BME, which is where I offer to be your chief compliance officer for as little as $497 a year. But if for people to reach out to you, we met also through Tim's mastermind, but
Yep.
LinkedIn's great for me. I know that you're active on Facebook as well, but what's the best way? What are the best ways to
Uh,
reach you?
yeah, sure. BudEvans.com has a link to all of my social media sites, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. My real name is Howard. So Howard Bud Evans, MBA. So I do have a master's in business administration, which is kind of how I got into all of this background stuff, this finance stuff.
Hmm.
So those two ways are the best way to get in touch with me.
Okay, beautiful. And then the last thing is actually not for you, but it's for you in the audience, which is kind of like a public service announcement. It's if you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine-like symptoms, it's probably because there's a hideous red button under my hand right here. It says subscribe. So if you see that, maybe you can like squint a little as you click on it so it doesn't, but the thing is once you click on it, it's gray and it's totally free to click on it. And the reason why it's so important to do it, other than, relieving those awful symptoms, is because it means that YouTube might start paying for these videos instead of me, which is kind of my play here. But honestly, all it does is it means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can go ahead and ignore those. I just appreciate the fact you spent this time with me. Just like Bud, it's long overdue. I appreciate you spending this time with me. It's been great to, talk to you and get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, Dan, I love your content, man. I've been following you for a while now.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.